I stared at my bank account balance and felt my stomach twist into knots. $2,000. That's all I had left after paying this month's mortgage, utilities, and my sister's emergency car repair. I should have known better than to believe Pearl when she said she'd pay me back. My name is Grace, and at 26, I'm living the opposite of every post-college dream I ever had. Instead of my own apartment in the city or traveling the world, I'm stuck in my childhood bedroom, working 2 jobs and bankrolling my entire family's existence. Grace! My mother's voice carried up the stairs. The electricity bill is due tomorrow. I already paid it, Mom, I called back, minimizing my banking app. $3,000, gone just like that. I hadn't even bought myself new work shoes yet, despite the holes wearing through the soles. Oh, good girl. She appeared in my doorway, perfectly manicured nails tapping against the frame. We're so lucky to have you. I don't know what we'd do without you helping out during these hard times. Hard times. Right. That's what they'd said when I first moved back home after graduation. Just until we get back on our feet, Dad had promised. 6 months, tops. That was 3 years ago. My phone buzzed with a text from Pearl. OMG sis, look at these shoes I just got. Only $300. I clicked the image. Christian Louboutins, my sister's 3rd pair this month. How can you afford those? I texted back. Don't be such a buzzkill. I got a bonus at work. Sure she did. Pearl's part-time job at the mall barely covered her phone bill, but somehow she always had money for shopping sprees and weekend trips with her friends. Grace, Mum again, your father needs to talk to you about the property taxes. I trudged downstairs to find Dad at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers. His reading glasses sat low on his nose as he peered at the numbers. We're a bit short this quarter, he said, not looking up. About 4,000. Dad, I can't. I'm already stretched thin with... Family helps family. He cut me off, finally meeting my eyes. Your mother and I gave up everything to put you through college. This is just temporary, you know that. The same old guilt trip. I wanted to scream that I'd paid for college myself with loans I was still paying off, but instead, I just nodded. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. That's my girl. He smiled, already turning back to his papers. Oh, and the roof needs fixing before winter. Start setting aside for that too. I escaped to the back porch, needing air. My co-worker Rachel had invited me to happy hour tonight, but I'd had to decline. Again. Every spare dollar went to keeping this house afloat while my parents cried poverty. My phone buzzed with another text from Pearl. Having the best sushi ever. Wish you were here. Attached was a photo of her at some upscale restaurant downtown, surrounded by friends and expensive plates of food. My dinner would be whatever I could scrape together from the kitchen, which I also stocked. I was about to head back inside when I heard my parents' voices drifting through the open window above me. They were on speakerphone with someone. Yes, we've got it all arranged, Mum was saying, her voice excited. 2 weeks through the Mediterranean. The cruise line upgraded us to a suite. That's wonderful, a woman's voice I didn't recognize. When do you leave? Next month, Dad replied. We figured after all these years of pinching pennies, we deserved something special for our anniversary. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. What about the kids? The woman asked. Mom laughed. Pearl's too busy with her social life to notice, and Grace, well, Grace will be here taking care of the house like always. She's such a responsible one. You raised her well, the woman said. We did, Dad agreed. Sometimes I feel a bit guilty about how much we rely on her, but she's young. She can always make more money later. I stood there, rooted to the spot, as their conversation continued. Mediterranean cruise, suite upgrade. All while, I ate ramen for dinner and put off getting my cavity filled because I couldn't afford the copay. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app again. $2,000. That's what was left of my life while they planned luxury vacations behind my back. Something inside me snapped. I stayed frozen on that porch, listening as my parents continued their cheerful cruise planning. My whole body felt numb, except for a burning sensation in my chest that grew with each word they spoke. The house account has more than enough, Mum was saying. We can even do those extra excursions in Greece. House account. The same account they claimed was barely covering property taxes and repairs. The same account I'd been pouring thousands into every month. And Pearl's coming shopping with me next week to pick out some new clothes for the trip, Mom continued. She has such great taste. I heard footsteps approaching the window and quickly pressed myself against the wall. Through the glass, I could see Mom pacing with her phone. No, Grace won't suspect anything. She never checks the account statements. Just transfers money in like clockwork. My legs finally decided to work. I slipped back inside through the kitchen door and made my way upstairs, careful to avoid the creaky steps. Once in my room, I opened my laptop and logged into the joint account I shared with my parents. The one they'd insisted I needed for household emergencies. 3 years of statements. That's what I started downloading, hands trembling as I clicked through each month. The truth was there in black and white. Spa days, designer clothes, weekend getaways, all while I skipped doctor's appointments and worked overtime at my second job. My phone buzzed. Rachel from work. You sure you can't make it tonight? We miss you. I started typing a response when another memory hit me. Last month, when I'd had that terrible toothache. Mom, I need to get this cavity filled, I'd told her, but I'm short on cash after paying the property taxes. Oh, honey, we're all making sacrifices, she'd replied. Your father and I haven't had a vacation in years. I checked the bank statements. 2 days after that conversation, there was a charge for a day spa, $300 for a couple's massage package. A knock at my door made me jump. Grace? It was Pearl. Can I borrow your black dress? The designer one? I don't have any designer dresses, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Sure you do. Mom said she bought you one for Christmas. I frowned. Mom didn't get me anything for Christmas. She said money was too tight. Oh. Pearl's voice faltered. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. After she left, I dug deeper into the statements. There it was, a charge from Nordstrom on December 23rd. A dress in my size that I'd never seen. My phone buzzed again. Rachel. Seriously, come out tonight. You sound stressed in your texts lately. I stared at her message for a long moment. Actually, yeah, I could use a drink. Be there in 30. At the bar, Rachel took one look at my face and ordered shots. Spill, she said. What's wrong? I told her everything. The cruise, the secret shopping, 3 years of lies. By the end, I was gripping my glass so hard I thought it might shatter. Grace, Rachel said slowly. That's financial abuse. It's family, I replied automatically, then stopped. How many times had they used that word to control me? No, Rachel shook her head. It's exploitation, and it needs to stop. Back home that night, I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I heard movement downstairs. Curious, I crept down to investigate. Mom was in Dad's office, rifling through his desk. She pulled out a folder and started taking photos of the documents inside with her phone. What are you doing? I asked from the doorway. She jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Oh, Grace, honey, you scared me. I was just looking for some old tax forms. At midnight? Well, you know me, night owl. She laughed nervously. Go back to bed, sweetie. I waited until she left before checking the folder she'd been photographing. Inside was a stack of papers with my signature on them. Joint responsibility agreements, loan documents, credit applications, all dated from right after my college graduation. My hands shook as I read through them. According to these papers, I wasn't just responsible for the house payments. I was legally tied to all sorts of debts I knew nothing about. One document caught my eye, a student loan transfer form. Next to my signature was a note. Transfer to Pearl Ryan, Boutique Startup Fund. They'd used my student loan money to fund Pearl's failed clothing store venture. The one they told me had been financed by an inheritance from our aunt. I heard Mom's bedroom door close upstairs. Carefully, I took photos of every document, then returned them exactly as I'd found them. In my room, I created a new email folder labeled Evidence and started uploading the photos. Then I opened my browser and typed, "How to legally separate yourself from family finances." It was time to start planning my escape. The next morning, I called in sick to both jobs and drove across town to a small accounting office. My hands were sweating as I walked in, clutching my folder of photos and documents. "Grace?" a familiar voice called out. "Is that really you?" Valeria looked exactly as I remembered her from high school. Sharp eyes behind stylish glasses, silver-streaked hair in a neat bun. She'd been our family accountant for years until she suddenly retired right after my college graduation. "I need your help," I said, sitting down across from her desk. "And I need to know why you really stopped working with my parents." She studied my face for a long moment. "Close the door." I did, then spread out the documents I'd photographed. Valeria's expression darkened as she looked through them. "I always wondered if they'd go through with it," she muttered. "Go through with what?" She pulled out a file from her cabinet. "3 years ago, your parents came to me with a proposal. They wanted to transfer all their debts to your name. Loans, credit cards, everything. Said it was temporary, just until they got back on their feet." My stomach lurched. "And?" I refused to help them do it. Told them it was unethical. They fired me the next day. She looked up sharply. "But clearly they found someone else who would." "What about Pearl's boutique? The student loan transfer?" Valeria's face hardened. "That money was meant for your graduate school. Your parents swore you'd agreed to give it to Pearl instead." "I never—" My voice cracked. "I didn't even know I had graduate school money." "There's more," Valeria said quietly. She pulled up some files on her computer. "Your parents opened several credit lines in your name. They used your social security number, probably from these documents you signed. The total liability—" She turned the screen toward me. The number made my vision blur. Over $100,000. "I'm going to be sick," I whispered. "No," Valeria said firmly. "You're going to be smart. I'm going to help you fix this, but you need to act fast." For the next 2 hours, we made plans. Valeria showed me how to freeze my credit, dispute unauthorized accounts, and document everything. She even called a lawyer friend who specialized in financial fraud. "What about the house account?" I asked. "Transfer your portion out immediately. They've been using your contributions for personal expenses. That money legally belongs to you." My phone buzzed. A text from Pearl. "Mom's taking me shopping for cruise clothes. Want to come?" I ignored it and turned back to Valeria. "I need somewhere to live. They can't know I'm leaving until I'm gone." "I might know someone," she said, reaching for her phone. "A client of mine owns apartments across town. He's discreet." 20 minutes later, a man named Kingsley arrived. He looked more like a surfer than a landlord, with tousled hair and friendly eyes. Valeria explained the situation, he said. "I have a 1-bedroom available. It's small but secure, and I can offer you a reduced rate if you help manage some tenant communications." "When can I move in?" "Today, if you need to." I felt tears pricking at my eyes. "Thank you." Back home that evening, I found Mom in the kitchen making dinner. The smell of her famous lasagna filled the air, my favorite meal. My stomach turned. "There's my hard-working girl," she smiled. "I made your favorite. Oh, and honey, the property tax bill came today." "I'll take care of it tomorrow," I said automatically, heading upstairs. In my room, I opened my laptop and started making lists. Bank accounts to close, bills to cancel, items to pack, a new email address to create. A knock at my door made me quickly minimize everything. Pearl bounced in, holding shopping bags. "Look what Mum bought me for the—" She stopped abruptly, eyes widening. "For the what?" I asked quietly. For the work conference. Next month." She laughed nervously. "Anyway, I got you something too." She pulled out a cheap scarf from one of the bags. The price tag was still on it, $12.99. Meanwhile, I could see the edge of a designer dress box peeking out of another bag. "Thanks," I said flatly. After she left, I added another item to my list. Forward all mail to new P.O. box. My phone buzzed with a text from Kingsley. "Apartment ready when you are. Key under mat." I looked around my childhood bedroom, at the walls that had witnessed so many lies. In 2 weeks, my parents and Pearl would leave for their secret cruise. They had no idea they'd come back to an empty house and a daughter who'd finally learned the truth about family. I opened my banking app and started moving money. "Are you sure about this?" Rachel asked, helping me load another box into her car. "Once you start, there's no going back." "I'm sure," I said, checking that my bedroom window blinds were still closed. It was 5 a.m. and my family wouldn't be up for hours. "Just 2 more boxes today." We'd been moving my belongings in small batches for a week now. Clothes, books, important documents. Anything I could sneak out without raising suspicion. The rest would have to wait for moving day. "Your new place is cute," Rachel said as we unloaded at Kingsley's apartment building. "Small, but cute." "It's mine," I replied, and my voice cracked on the word. "Actually mine." Back home, Mom was in the kitchen when I walked in. "Where were you so early?" "Morning run with Rachel," I said, the lie coming easily now. "Getting back in shape." "Good for you." She beamed. "Oh, speaking of exercise, I need your credit card for a moment. The gym membership renewal is due." "Can't you use yours?" Her smile tightened. "You know money's tight right now, sweetie, just until next month." I handed over my card, knowing full well she'd use it for cruise expenses. But it didn't matter anymore. This card would be cancelled in 2 weeks. At work, I took my lunch break to visit the bank. "I need to close all joint accounts," I told the manager, "and open new ones at a different bank." "Family accounts?" she asked, typing. "Not anymore." That afternoon, I created a spreadsheet of every bill I'd paid, every loan I'd covered, every emergency I'd funded. 3 years of financial records, meticulously documented. The total made me feel sick. My phone buzzed. "Pearl. Dad says the roof is leaking in my room. Can you call the repair guy?" "Pretty please." I ignored it. Let them figure it out themselves for once. That evening, I heard Mom and Dad discussing their upcoming trip in their bedroom. "Grace seems distracted lately," Mom said. "Do you think she suspects anything?" "How could she?" Dad replied. "She never questions anything we tell her. Besides, we'll be back before she knows it." I gripped the stair railing so hard my knuckles turned white. The next morning, I took a sick day and met with the lawyer Valeria had recommended. "They committed fraud," she said, reviewing my documents. "Multiple counts. We can press charges." "I don't want that," I said. "I just want out." "Then let's make sure you get out clean." She started drafting papers. "No legal ties, no shared accounts, no way for them to touch your money again." Back home, I found Mom in my room, going through my desk drawers. "What are you doing?" I asked from the doorway. She jumped. "Oh, just looking for that recipe I gave you last month, the one for lasagna." But I saw her slip something into her pocket. Later, I checked my desk. My newest bank statement was missing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs for water and found Pearl sprawled on the couch, online shopping on her phone. "Want to split an Uber Eats order?" she asked. "I'm craving sushi." "Can't you use your own money?" She laughed. "Why so stingy? It's just food." I wanted to scream that it wasn't just food. It was 3 years of my life, my dreams, my future. Instead, I just went back upstairs. The next day, I met Kingsley to finalize the apartment details. "Moving trucks booked for the 15th, he said. "Day they leave for their trip." "Perfect." I handed him an envelope. "First and last month's rent." "You know," he said, "what they did to you. It's not okay." "I know that now." When I got home, there was a thank you card from Pearl on my bed. "Thanks for house sitting while we're away. Love you lots." I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet one last time. Added a few final entries. Mum's secret spa day, $400. Pearl's emergency car repair, $2,000. Dad's golf club membership, $1,500. Their Mediterranean cruise, priceless. 2 more days until they left. 2 more days of pretending everything was normal. 2 more days until I took back my life. I looked around my nearly empty room, at the bare walls and packed boxes hidden in my closet. Soon, this would all be just a memory. An expensive lesson in what family shouldn't be. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Everything ready for Operation Freedom?" I smiled and typed back, "Almost. Just waiting for them to leave so I can make my grand exit." I watched from my bedroom window as the Uber pulled away from our house, carrying my family to the airport. Mum had kissed my cheek, Dad had reminded me about the bills, and Pearl had waved excitedly from the back seat. None of them knew it was the last time they'd see me in this house. The moment their car turned the corner, I pulled out my phone. "They're gone," I texted to Rachel and Kingsley. Within 15 minutes, a moving truck pulled up outside, right on schedule. "Morning," the driver said, checking his clipboard. "Grace." "That's me." I opened the front door wide. "Everything's packed and labeled. Let's do this fast." I'd spent the last 2 weeks meticulously organizing my exit. Every box was marked, every item catalogued. The movers worked efficiently, carrying out my life piece by piece while I supervised. "What's this?" One of them held up a stack of papers I'd left on the kitchen table. "That stays," I said quietly. "It's their parting gift." The envelope contained everything. Bank statements showing their secret purchases, credit card bills revealing their lies, loan documents they'd forged my signature on. And on top, a letter I'd spent hours writing. "Dear Mum, Dad, and Pearl, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Here's a detailed account of everything you've taken from me over the past 3 years. Total household expenses, $48,762, emergency loans, $31,450, Pearl's boutique, my stolen student loan, $25,000, unauthorized credit cards in my name, $42,190, your Mediterranean cruise, $12,000, grand total, $160,102. Don't bother trying to contact me. All shared accounts are closed. All automatic payments are stopped. The house is your responsibility now, just like it always should have been. Enjoy your cruise. Grace. I'd added copies of their social media posts. Mum's spa day check-ins, Pearl's shopping hauls, Dad's golf club photos, all time-stamped on days they'd claimed to be broke. The movers finished in just under 2 hours. I did one final walkthrough of my bedroom, making sure I hadn't forgotten anything important. My phone buzzed. A text from Mum. "Boarding soon. Don't forget to water my plants." I deleted it without responding. In the kitchen, I laid my house key next to the envelope. Then I pulled out another set of documents. These ones from Valeria and the lawyer. official notices of account closures, credit freezes, and fraud alerts. They'd know exactly how thoroughly I'd cut ties. "Ready to go?" Rachel asked from the doorway. She'd come to drive me to my new apartment. Almost. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app one last time. Every account I shared with them had been drained, legally, since my name was on them. The money was now safely in my new private account at a different bank. I took a deep breath and started blocking numbers. Mum, Dad, Pearl, all their social media accounts, email addresses, everything. Now I'm ready. The drive to my new apartment felt surreal. Behind us, the moving truck followed with my belongings. 3 years of indentured servitude, packed into cardboard boxes. "They're going to lose their minds," Rachel said. "They're going to lose a lot more than that," I replied. "They can't afford that house without me, or their cars, or Pearl's shopping habits." At the apartment, Kingsley was waiting to help us unload. "Welcome home," he said, handing me my new keys. It took another 2 hours to get everything inside. My furniture looked different in the smaller space, but it felt right. This place was mine, really mine. "Want us to stay?" Rachel asked as the moving truck pulled away. "Help you unpack?" I shook my head. "I need to do this part alone." After they left, I sat on my new couch and pulled out my phone. No messages yet. They were probably still in the air, but soon they'd land in Europe, and the notifications would start. I opened my email and sent 4 pre-written messages. To their utility companies, service cancellation notice, to their credit card companies, fraud alert, to their bank, account closure confirmation, to their mortgage company, removal of my name from all documents. Then I blocked every single company email address. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Pearl. "About to take off. Thanks for watching the house. Best sister ever." I took a screenshot of the message, added it to my evidence folder, and finished blocking her number. Then I walked to my new kitchen, poured myself a glass of wine, and smiled. They had 2 weeks of luxury ahead of them. I had a lifetime of freedom. 3 days into my new life, Rachel forwarded me a screenshot from Pearl's Instagram story. "Can't reach my sister. Anyone know if she's okay? Starting to worry." I laughed darkly. They must have just discovered the envelope. "Your mom tried calling the office today," Rachel texted next. "I told her you don't work here anymore. She didn't take it well." My phone had been blowing up with blocked calls and messages for the past 24 hours. I'd gotten a new number, but kept the old one active to document their attempts to contact me. Later that afternoon, Valeria called. "They're trying to access the house account," she said. "The bank denied them. Your documentation of unauthorized spending worked. They're locked out." "Good," I said, unpacking another box in my kitchen. "How bad is it for them?" "Bad. The mortgage payment bounced this morning. And those credit cards they opened in your name? I've got the fraud department investigating." My hands shook slightly as I placed mugs in the cabinet. "Any legal threats yet?" "They can't make any. The evidence is too clear." She paused. "But Grace, Pearl posted something concerning on social media about coming back early to fix things." I checked Pearl's Instagram. Sure enough, there was a new story. "Cutting our trip short. Family emergency. Can't believe what's happening." Satai. An hour later, my old co-worker Maria messaged me. "Your mum's here at the coffee shop, telling everyone you had a mental breakdown and stole their money. Want me to set the record straight?" "No," I replied. "Let them dig their own grave." That evening, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. It was Dad, writing from his work account. "Grace, what you've done is unforgivable. We're your family. We gave you everything. Your mother is in tears. Pearl had to cancel her semester abroad. How could you be so selfish? The least you can do is answer our calls." I forwarded it to my lawyer without responding. The next day, Pearl's posts turned nasty. PSA: watch out for toxic family members who pretend to care about you but are just waiting to stab you in the back. Rachel sent me more screenshots. Mom had joined local Facebook groups, posting about her mentally unstable daughter who needed help. The comments were full of sympathetic responses until someone who knew the truth started posting receipts of their spending. The post disappeared within hours. A week into my disappearance, Kingsley texted, "Heads up, your parents were asking about you at the building next door. They're getting desperate." I'd been expecting this. They'd try every apartment complex in the area, thinking I couldn't afford to live far from my old jobs. That afternoon, I got another email, this time from Mom. "Sweetie, please come home. We can work this out. Yes, we made mistakes, but that's what families do. We forgive each other. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Is that what you want? To make us sick with worry?" I added it to my documentation folder and kept unpacking. The next day, my lawyer called. "They tried to report you for theft," she said. "The police laughed them out of the station when they saw the evidence. But be careful. They're getting desperate." I glanced out my window at the security camera Kingsley had installed. "I'm ready for them." Pearl's next Instagram post was a throwback photo of us as kids, missing my sister. Wish she'd realize what she's throwing away. Family is forever. The comments were brutal. "Didn't you steal her student loan money? Weren't you just bragging about your shopping sprees last week? Pretty sure family doesn't financially abuse family." She deleted it within minutes. That evening, I got a notification from my bank. They were trying to open a new credit card in my name again. The fraud alert blocked it instantly. "Your father called the electric company," Valeria texted. "Tried to get them to put the bill back in your name. They refused." I smiled, remembering all the times they'd told me I couldn't survive without them. Now they were the ones struggling to keep the lights on. Rachel sent me one final screenshot for the day. Mum's latest social media post. "Sometimes the people you help the most hurt you the worst. But we're still praying for our daughter to come to her senses. A mother's love is unconditional." I closed my laptop and looked around my new apartment. The walls were bare, boxes still scattered around, but it felt more like home than that house ever had. My phone buzzed with a voicemail notification from Pearl. "You just destroyed this family." No, I thought. They destroyed it themselves. I just stopped paying the bills. I was carrying groceries up to my apartment when I saw them. Mom, Dad, and Pearl, standing in the parking lot next to their car. My heart stopped, then started racing. "Grace!" Mom called out, already rushing toward me. "Finally! We've been looking everywhere!" I dropped my groceries inside my door and stepped back out, closing it firmly behind me. Kingsley appeared from his office, phone in hand. "Everything okay here?" he asked, but his thumb was already moving over the keypad, calling security. "This is a family matter," Dad said sharply. "Please leave us." "I'm staying," Kingsley replied, leaning against the wall. Mom reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Don't touch me." "Grace, honey, you're being ridiculous," she said, her voice taking on that sickly sweet tone I knew so well. "Let's just go home and talk about this." "Home?" I laughed. "You mean the house you can't afford without me? How's that mortgage payment working out?" Dad's face darkened. "We raised you better than this. After everything we've done for you." "Everything you've done to me," I corrected. "The loans in my name, the credit cards, my stolen student fund?" Pearl stepped forward. "It wasn't stealing. I needed that money for my business." "A business that failed in 3 months while I worked 2 jobs to pay for your shopping sprees." "We're your family!" Mom's voice cracked. "You can't just abandon us." "Watch me." 2 security guards rounded the corner. Kingsley nodded at them. You need to leave, one guard said to my parents. We're not going anywhere without our daughter, Dad growled. Your daughter? I pulled out my phone. Let's talk about your daughter. Let's talk about the 3 years of bank statements showing how you used me. The forged loan documents. The credit fraud. Should I call the police and show them? Mom's face went white. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I have copies of everything. Every lie. Every theft. Every manipulation. We gave you a roof over your head, Dad shouted. No, I gave you a roof, and cars, and vacations, and Pearl's shopping addiction. I paid for everything while you cried poverty and lived like royalty. It wasn't like that, Pearl protested weakly. Really? Should we pull up your Instagram? All those posts about your shopping sprees and fancy restaurants while I ate ramen for dinner. The security guards moved closer. Last warning, one said. Leave now, or we call the police. Grace, Mom tried one last time, tears streaming down her face. Please, we can't manage without you. That sounds like a you problem. My voice was ice cold. I'm done managing your lives, done funding your lifestyle, done being your personal ATM. After everything we sacrificed, Dad started. The only thing you sacrificed was my trust. And if you ever try to contact me again, if you ever try to use my name for anything, I'll press charges for fraud. I have enough evidence to put you all away. You'd send your own parents to jail? Pearl gasped. You'd steal from your own daughter, I shot back. Mom started sobbing dramatically. Dad's face was purple with rage. Pearl just stood there, finally seeming to understand the magnitude of what they'd done. Get out, I said quietly. Get out and never come back. The security guards stepped forward, and finally, my family started backing away. This isn't over, Dad called over his shoulder. Yes, it is. I watched them retreat to their car. Your karma arrived. It just came riding in under my name. They drove away, Mom still crying, Pearl looking back through the window. I waited until their car disappeared before my legs started shaking. Kingsley touched my shoulder gently. You okay? No, I admitted, but I will be. Back in my apartment, I sat down and opened my laptop. First, I emailed my lawyer with a detailed account of what just happened. Then I checked my bank accounts, all secure, no new attempts at access. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I replied. Tears, threats, guilt trips, the usual. You're free now, she texted back. Really free. I looked around my small apartment, at the life I was building for myself. No more funding their luxuries. No more crying poverty while they lived large. No more guilt trips and manipulation. Pearl's last voice message played in my head. You just destroyed this family. No, I thought. I just stopped letting them destroy me. My phone buzzed again. An email notification. Mom trying one last time. You'll regret this. Family is forever. I clicked delete without reading further and blocked her new email address. They were right about one thing. Family is forever. But sometimes forever needs to end. The real estate listing popped up in my email. Foreclosure, beautiful family home. Below was a photo of my old house, looking smaller and shabbier than I remembered. They couldn't keep up with the payments, Valeria said over coffee. The bank's taking it next week. I stirred my latte, surprised by my lack of emotion. Where are they living now? Your parents moved into a small apartment. Pearl's couch surfing with friends. She paused. They tried to use your name for a rental application last week. And? The fraud alert stopped them cold. Again. She smiled. The system you set up is working perfectly. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Got the promotion. Dinner tonight to celebrate? Absolutely, I replied. My treat. I could afford treats now. Without 3 extra people draining my accounts, I'd paid off my legitimate debts and even started a savings account. The money that used to fund their lifestyle now funded my future. "Oh," Valeria said, pulling out some papers. "The investigation into those fraudulent credit cards is complete. The companies agreed to clear your name entirely." I took the documents, remembering how scared I'd been when I first discovered those cards. Now they were just paper, powerless. At work that afternoon, I got an unexpected visit. Pearl stood awkwardly by my desk, looking thinner and less polished than before. "Security called up," I said coldly. "You have 2 minutes." "I got a job," she blurted out. "A real one, full-time, and I'm seeing a therapist." She twisted her hands together. "She's helping me understand what we did to you." I said nothing. "Mom and Dad won't go to therapy. They still think you're the problem." She swallowed hard. "But I know better now, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't pay back my student loan money." "I know." She pulled out an envelope. "This is my first paycheck. It's not much, but I want you to have it. Start paying you back." I looked at the envelope, but didn't take it. "Keep it. Consider it the cost of learning who our parents really are. Grace, your 2 minutes are up." She left the envelope anyway. I shredded it without opening it. That evening at dinner, Rachel raised her glass. "To freedom!" "To consequences," I added, clinking glasses. "Speaking of consequences," she said, "did you see your mom's latest Facebook post?" I hadn't. I'd blocked them all months ago. Rachel showed me her phone. "Missing my daughter every day. Sometimes the hardest thing is accepting that toxic people need to be left behind, even if they're family. Boundaries, but just self-care." I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my wine. The irony. "The comments are savage," Rachel grinned. "Everyone knows the truth now." Back home, I found a letter from my lawyer. The last attempt by my parents to access my accounts had resulted in a formal cease and desist order. Any further attempts would trigger automatic legal action. I added the letter to my closure file, the same one that held all the evidence of their fraud, not because I needed it anymore, but as a reminder of why I'd done what I did. My phone buzzed with a text from Kingsley. "Your dad was asking about you at the coffee shop down the street. Want me to warn them?" "No need," I replied. "They can't hurt me anymore." I walked to my window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my family was learning to live without their safety net, without their personal bank, without me. My therapist had asked me last week if I felt guilty. I didn't. They'd spent 3 years teaching me that family meant sacrifice, but they'd never specified it had to be mine. A final text came through, from Pearl's new number. "The house sells tomorrow. Mum's crying about your old room. Says she keeps waiting for you to come home." I didn't respond, but I thought about that room, the place where I'd planned my escape, where I'd discovered their lies, where I'd finally found the strength to save myself. Home was different now. It was this small apartment with its paid-up rent. It was dinner with Rachel celebrating her promotion. It was coffee with Valeria planning my financial future. It was Kingsley checking in to make sure I was safe. I opened my banking app and smiled at my growing savings account. Then I opened my calendar and booked a vacation. My first real one, paid for with my own money. Let them cry over my empty room. I was too busy filling my new life. Some people say revenge doesn't bring peace. They're wrong. Sometimes revenge is just another word for freedom. And freedom, that feels like finally coming home.
The searing pain hit me like a bolt of lightning, radiating from my core through every nerve ending in my body. I cried out, gripping the bed rails until my knuckles turned white. The contractions were coming faster now, intense waves slamming into me. "You're doing great. Just keep breathing," the nurse encouraged. I tried to focus on her calming voice, using it as an anchor against the agony. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the sharp cries of a newborn pierce the air. "It's a girl," the doctor proclaimed. Relief and joy flooded through me as they placed my precious baby girl into my arms. Her tiny fingers grasped at mine as I held her close. In that moment, all the pain dissolved away. I looked up to see Nolan, my husband of 5 years, staring down at us. But instead of the loving gaze I expected, his face was etched with tension. His eyes flickered with an emotion I couldn't quite place. "She's perfect," I whispered, tears of happiness trailing down my cheeks. Nolan gave a curt nod. "Get some rest. I need to make a call," he said abruptly before slipping out of the room. A gnawing feeling began to take hold in my gut. Something wasn't right. Ever since I had gotten pregnant, Nolan had grown increasingly distant and cold. It was a stark contrast to the man I fell in love with, who had once been my biggest supporter. I tried to push away the dark thoughts creeping in. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Nolan returned half an hour later, his jaw clenched. I searched his face, looking for any trace of joy or excitement, but found none. "Who was on the phone?" I asked. He avoided my gaze. "No one. Look, we need to talk." I noticed he was still wearing his wedding ring, the plain gold band I had placed on his finger 5 years ago, the one he promised he would never take off. But now it seemed like a lie. "What's going on?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Nolan stood rigidly at the foot of the bed, his eyes cold. "This isn't working. I've tried, but I can't do this anymore." His words dropped like stones in the pit of my stomach. "Do what exactly?" "This." He made a gesture with his hand. "I'm in love with someone else." The room started spinning. This had to be a nightmare. "What are you saying?" I whispered. He shoved his hands in his pockets. "Her name is Cassidy. We've been seeing each other for months. I'm going to be with her." Suddenly, the past year replayed in my mind on fast forward. Nolan's unexplained absences, his emotional distance, it all clicked into place. Rage boiled up inside me. "You cheated on me while I was pregnant with your child." He stood there, stone-faced. "Cassidy was there for me in ways you weren't." The audacity of his words stole the breath from my lungs. I glared at him with every ounce of loathing I could muster. "Get out," I seethed. "Get out before I call security to drag you out of here." For a moment, Nolan just stared at me. Then, without another word, he turned and left, the door clicking shut behind him with dreadful finality. I looked down at my innocent baby, still cradled protectively in my arms. Nolan had turned his back on us, but I would never abandon my child. A steely resolve rose up within me, cutting through the shock and anguish. If Nolan wanted a war, he would get one. I would make him regret the day he ever betrayed us. The next few days passed in a haze of feedings, diaper changes, and sporadic bursts of sleep. My thoughts constantly drifted back to Nolan's cruel revelation in the hospital room. I replayed the scene over and over, analyzing every detail. The cold detachment in his eyes, the matter-of-fact tone as he declared his love for another woman. My best friend Juliana came to visit often, helping around the house and providing a sympathetic ear. I found myself obsessively recounting Nolan's betrayal to her, as if speaking the words aloud might miraculously change them. "That bastard! I never trusted him," Juliana declared, her eyes flashing. "Don't waste another second worrying about that snake." I sighed, adjusting the swaddled newborn in my arms. "I just don't understand how he could do this. We were so happy once." Juliana shook her head. "People show their true colors eventually. He never deserved you." I thought back to the early days with Nolan, how he used to surprise me with flowers, how we would stay up all night talking. When had it all gone wrong? "I ignored so many red flags," I said quietly. "The late nights at the office, the locked phone screen. I feel so stupid." "This is not your fault." Juliana squeezed my shoulder. "Nolan chose to betray his vows. Don't let him make you feel guilty, too." Over the next few weeks, I tried to focus on healing both physically and emotionally. But lingering doubts continued to plague me. I needed proof of Nolan's affair, some tangible confirmation that this Cassidy person truly existed. One evening, Juliana arrived on my doorstep, eyes blazing with fury. That asshole thought he could keep his little secret contained at the office. Well, it's all out in the open now. She revealed that she had discreetly investigated at the company where Nolan and I both worked. Rumors of his affair with a younger colleague named Cassidy had spread like wildfire. "It's definitely the same woman he mentioned," I said bitterly. "He wasn't even trying to hide it from people at work." Juliana nodded. I'm so sorry, Alara, but at least now you know the truth. He doesn't deserve your tears. Hot anger pulsed through me as reality sank in. Nolan had paraded his mistress around, utterly unconcerned about my pain or public humiliation. I pictured his smug face and felt pure loathing wash over me. He had slipped the knife in my back when I was at my most vulnerable. Well, it was time I returned the favor. A week later, I was finally discharged from the hospital with strict instructions to rest and recover. As I settled into my bedroom, a sense of peace washed over me. For the first time since that wretched day, Nolan destroyed our lives. I had just finished nursing the baby when the doorbell rang. Still sore and fatigued, I slowly made my way downstairs. I froze when I opened the front door. Nolan stood on the porch next to a slender blonde woman I could only assume was Cassidy. Before I could react, they brushed past me into the foyer. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded, blocking their path. Nolan glanced around impatiently. "I'm here for my things. Cassidy will help me pack up." I gaped at them. Did they think they could just barge in and take over? Cassidy gave me a disparaging look. "We're here to take the baby, too. She deserves a proper home." Rage surged within me. "You must be out of your damn minds if you think I'm letting her go anywhere with you," I spat. Nolan stepped forward menacingly. "I will be a part of my daughter's life, like it or not." "Over my dead body," I snarled. "Get out before I call the cops." Just then I heard the front door swing open again behind me. "I wouldn't unpack just yet if I were you," came Juliana's voice. I turned to see her waving a manila envelope, eyes flashing. Nolan paled at the sight of her. "In fact, I think you'll both be cleaning out your desks at the office instead," she continued. Cassidy let out a scoff. "And who the hell are you?" "Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is that I have enough evidence here of your sordid affair to bury you both." Juliana pulled out printed emails and photographed text conversations documenting their relationship, all time-stamped during my pregnancy. Nolan lunged for the papers, but Juliana yanked them away. "Ah, too late. Copies have already been sent to the head office. Hope you don't mind facing a sexual harassment investigation, Cassidy." Cassidy gasped, glanced frantically at Nolan, then fled for the still-open door. After a final venomous glare, Nolan followed close behind. I turned to Juliana, awestruck. "How did you get all that?" she winked. "I have my sources. No one messes with my best friend." Relief swept over me. Once again, Juliana had proven herself a loyal ally. While Nolan and his mistress reaped the bitter harvest of their lies, I would keep forging ahead. Upstairs, my innocent baby slept soundly, unaware of the darkness that had invaded our lives. Gazing at her sweet face, I knew I would move mountains to make sure she never suffered like I had. Nolan had slipped the knife in my back when I was vulnerable. Now it was my turn to take everything from him. His dignity, his career, his reputation. The only thought sweeter than revenge was the chance to start over, far from his shadow. The next morning, I received an urgent call from Juliana, instructing me to get to the office immediately. Still weak and sore, I reluctantly left my newborn with a neighbor and drove downtown. Juliana met me outside the towering glass building that housed our company's headquarters. "I hope you're ready for a show," she said with a sly grin. Up in the executive wing, we stepped into a posh waiting area outside the president's office. Cassidy was already there, pacing and biting her nails. When she saw me, her eyes flashed with hatred. At that moment, the office door swung open and Nolan stalked out, face pale. He froze when he saw us, fear creeping into his expression. Mr. Harlan, the company president, emerged behind Nolan and beckoned us all inside. "Please, have a seat," Harlan said politely as we filed in. He was known as much for his courtesy as his shrewd intelligence. Cassidy sat ramrod straight, eyes fixed on the floor. Nolan drummed his fingers anxiously on the armrest beside her. Harlan neatly arranged papers on his desk before folding his hands. "It seems we have some personnel issues that require immediate attention." He turned to Cassidy first. "You are aware that intimate relationships between employees are against company policy?" "Yes, sir," she answered tersely. "And yet clear evidence shows you had an ongoing affair with a married executive, a man whose wife, I might add, you worked closely with during her difficult pregnancy." Cassidy flushed but said nothing. Harlan continued in measured tones. "Your actions show a disturbing lack of integrity and professionalism. Effective today, your employment is terminated. Cassidy shot to her feet. You can't do this. My family donated half the artwork in this building. Harlan didn't blink. Your aunt may be a noted philanthropist, but neither she nor your family name will excuse misconduct here. Defeated, Cassidy grabbed her purse and fled the office. Nolan reached out as if to stop her, then seemed to think better of it. Harlan turned his attention next to Nolan. Not only did you violate company rules, you abandoned your family duties. Such poor character does not befit a senior executive. Nolan's face twisted. I've given 15 years to this firm. You can't throw me out over one mistake. It was no mere mistake. You systematically deceived your wife and jeopardized an important project, distracting your team for months. Your presence here is now untenable. Harlan slid an envelope across the desk. Here is the terms of your severance package. I suggest you accept and make a quiet departure. With shaking hands, Nolan took the papers and left. I watched him go with a sense of dark satisfaction. Harlan gave me a kind look. My dear, you were clearly the injured party here. Consider this matter closed on the company's end. I hope you recover fully, both physically and personally. Outside the office, Juliana hugged me tight. I let out a sob I didn't know I'd been holding in, the overwhelming emotions of the past weeks finally crashing over me. It was over. Justice had been swift and sure. Now I could focus on rebuilding a new life with my daughter, a peaceful life, far from the backstabbing duplicity of people like Nolan. When karma came for him, the knife in his back was one he richly deserved. In the weeks following Nolan's termination, I focused on regaining my strength and finding a new normal with my daughter. I took extended medical leave from work, relying on my savings while I figured out next steps. Juliana was a constant support, helping around the house and encouraging me to take it one day at a time. Forget about Nolan. Everything will work out, you'll see, she said during one late-night chat session. But I couldn't forget. Or forgive. Quiet rage still simmered within me over how Nolan deceived me. I replayed every memory, analyzing all the times he lied straight to my face. He had hurt me deeper than anyone ever had, and he deserved to fully reap what he sowed. Late one night, an idea began to take form. If Nolan thought he could simply walk away unscathed, he was dead wrong. With Juliana's help, I would make sure his betrayal followed him like a dark cloud over every aspect of his life. I decided to start with his beloved career reputation. Nolan had always taken pride in being a rising star at the company, ruthless and ambitious. It was time to crash his image and turn his coworkers against him. Juliana and I drafted an anonymous email detailing Nolan's affair with a direct report during my vulnerable pregnancy. We included key dates and events, along with Cassidy's name. From an internet cafe, we sent the message to everyone in their business circle. Soon after, the heated office gossip mill went into overdrive. Nolan's peers and colleagues were appalled at the sordid details. The portrait of a lying snake emerged, destroying any respect he once commanded. Meanwhile, I spoke with a take-no-prisoners divorce lawyer about destroying Nolan financially. We drew up divorce papers asserting adultery as grounds and seeking full custody with a generous side of child support. Serving Nolan the papers at his new apartment was profoundly satisfying. The look of defeat on his face was priceless. "You'll regret this," he snarled, but we both knew all the power rested firmly in my hands now. Getting my revenge on the home-wrecking Cassidy required a subtler approach. I unearthed her active social media accounts and anonymously sent screenshots to her college friends of her boasting about seducing a married man. The backlash was swift and severe. Calls for her to be fired from her new waitressing job flooded her online profiles. Old friends and roommates publicly denounced her character. She disappeared from social media entirely less than 24 hours later. While Cassidy retreated into obscurity, Nolan would soon endure the full public humiliation of a court battle dragging his name through the mud. I hoped the legal fees and child support bled him dry. As I rocked my baby to sleep each night, the dark thoughts receded and calm took its place. The storm Nolan brought into our lives had cleared. Soon we would be free of him for good. The memories of the loving man I once knew replaced by the far more accurate image of a spineless, cruel traitor. He was finally getting exactly what he deserved. The day of my first divorce hearing arrived gray and bleak, fittingly mirroring my mood. I dressed in sober black and steeled myself for the confrontation ahead. I strode into the courtroom with my head held high, refusing to show an ounce of weakness. Nolan sat at the defendant's table, looking pale and twitchy. His usual well-groomed appearance was notably absent. As we went through initial motions, Nolan tried repeatedly to catch my eye. I kept my gaze fixed straight ahead, acting as if he weren't even in the room. When the judge questioned Nolan about the affair accusations, he sputtered unconvincingly. It meant nothing, just a stupid mistake. My lawyer presented ironclad evidence of the timeline of his betrayal coinciding with my vulnerable pregnancy. Nolan had no counter-argument. On the custody issues, Nolan became agitated and confrontational. "You can't prove I wouldn't be a fit parent," he burst out. The judge's tone grew stern. "You have not participated in caring for your newborn child. These allegations against your character are troubling." In the end, the judge approved our proposed arrangements for full custody and a substantial monthly child support payment. Nolan had lost completely on all fronts. The burning fury in his eyes spoke volumes. As we left court, Nolan grabbed my arm and forced me to face him. "I won't let you take my daughter away from me," he hissed. I yanked my arm back. "Touch me again and I'll have my lawyer file for a restraining order." Leaving him fuming, I walked away feeling victorious. The law was firmly on my side. Over the next few weeks, Nolan maintained a campaign to salvage his reputation without success. He tried shifting blame, claiming I pushed him away during pregnancy and refused marital affection. But the facts of his prolonged deceit were indisputable. Former colleagues and business contacts continued to ice him out, disgusted by the very public details of his affairs and misconduct. Doors closed swiftly when he came calling for job prospects. Nolan grew increasingly unhinged, ranting on social media about injustice and karma coming for those who wronged him. But his credibility was shot. Few paid him any mind. Meanwhile, I embraced single motherhood with a new optimism. The final divorce decree arrived right before my daughter's first birthday, with all terms in my favor. The new year felt full of promise and possibility. On a whim, I reached out to my former workplace and discovered they had an opening, eager to have me return. The chance to fully rebuild my career after years on the mommy track felt like a hard-won victory. As I regained my financial independence and stability, I marveled at how far I'd come. Just a year ago, my world had come crashing down. Now the future looked bright through eyes unclouded by lies and betrayal. Nolan had gotten the bitter revenge he deserved, and I had reclaimed my life. Over the next year, I fell into a rhythm of balancing work and motherhood. My new role involved less travel, allowing me to better care for my daughter's needs. Having the flexibility to leave early for school pickups and doctor visits made all the difference. Settling into my own place also brought immense relief. The wounds of Nolan's betrayal no longer haunted every corner. This was a home filled with new memories and possibilities. My social life also revived as I reconnected with old friends. Juliana remained a stalwart support, helping wrangle my rambunctious toddler during girls' nights out. Her companionship brought much-needed fun and laughter into my days. Meanwhile, Nolan's circumstances continued to crumble. With his reputation in tatters, he could only find spotty contract work. He burned through his remaining savings trying to keep up appearances and pay owed debts. I heard through the grapevine that he was hitting the bottle pretty hard too, often drunk and belligerent in public. It seemed anyone still willing to associate with him was another cheating lowlife or enabler. On the rare occasions our paths crossed, Nolan's bloodshot eyes and disheveled appearance only emphasized how far he'd fallen. He was a shell of the polished, ruthless corporate climber I'd once known. "We could have had it all," he slurred to me on one awkward chance encounter outside my office building. "It wasn't meant to turn out like this." I sidestepped him with a shrug. Should have thought of that sooner. I had long since stopped caring about anything he had to say. After 2 years of sporadic calls and texts full of bitter recriminations, Nolan's contact gradually faded to nothing. The biggest surprise was realizing I didn't miss him in the slightest. I was finally free, fully healed from wounds that had once cut so deep. My daughter remained oblivious to her father's dysfunctional spiral into obscurity. To her, family meant me, Grandma, and Aunt Juliana. She was thriving in preschool and had playdates most weekends with classmates. I made sure her life was filled with love and joy. As for Cassidy, the homewrecker who helped implode my marriage, karma had left its mark on her too. Crippled by the scandal and social media backlash, she had changed her name and left the state. Wherever she ended up, I hope guilt haunts her over what she helped destroy. Maybe Nolan can give her late-night calls instead. On the eve of my daughter's 4th birthday, I hosted a princess tea party with 10 giggling little girls crowding my living room. As I snapped photos and filled teacups, my heart swelled with love and pride. The painful past felt like a distant lifetime ago. Now my days were rich with playfulness and possibility, chasing around a bright-eyed daughter who was the center of my world. I had traveled through the darkness and come out wiser, stronger, renewed in body and spirit. The future awaited, more radiant than ever. Time marched steadily onward, each new day further distance between my present happiness and the pain of the past. My daughter thrived in elementary school, smart and social. She excelled in reading and loved showing off new dance moves she learned in hip-hop class. Her eyes, so like her father's, now sparkled with joy he had long forfeited the right to witness. At my company, years of consistently superb work paid off with a promotion to a director-level position. I now led a team of bright up-and-comers helping set strategy for our division. It felt surreal to be so highly valued when just a few years prior I'd wondered if my career would fully recover post-divorce. On evenings when my schedule allowed, Juliana and I would meet up for dinner and dissect dating app horror stories. We made an unlikely pair, her flashy and fiery, me understated and dry-humored. But our sisterly bond ran deep. "You really showed that cheating scumbag Nolan what's what," Juliana remarked one night as we lingered over tiramisu. Not every woman could turn heartbreak into such epic revenge. I smiled wryly. Don't think I didn't imagine slipping arsenic in his wine a few times, but in the end, living well turned out to be the best revenge. One spring morning I spotted a familiar name in the newspaper and my heartbeat quickened reflexively before I could stop it. There was Nolan, looking worn and shabby as he exited a courthouse trying unsuccessfully to dodge photographers. The accompanying article chronicled his guilty plea to drunk driving charges after ramming his car into a tree. His license suspended, career in tatters. The shell of the man I once loved now seemed utterly broken. For the first time in ages, an unexpected pang of sympathy pierced my heart. Whatever latent feelings stirred were quickly extinguished when Nolan's name surfaced again the following week. Arrested on assault charges after a bar fight, his spiral into reckless self-destruction seemed complete. I shook my head, sadly but resolutely. Some people could not be saved from themselves. I had to remain focused on protecting the family we had built, me and our daughter. She was the only part of him worth cherishing. As I helped my little girl practice newly learned multiplication tables that evening, I marveled at how innocence persists even when surrounded by the fallen world. Her childhood was so different from my own, devoid of yelling, mind games, and violence. By some miracle I had overcome my beginnings and broken the cycle. My daughter would grow up trusting in steadfast love, not tiptoeing around landmines. I realized then that I bore no lingering resentments over the pain and deception in my past. Survival and renewal had given me the courage to fully embrace life's complexities. On the other side awaited joy and light, if you just kept moving forward. Nolan's wasted potential was not my concern. His choices led him down a destructive road long before our paths fatefully intertwined. I saw that now with clarity. My task was to raise my daughter with wisdom and compassion, equipping her for whatever lay ahead. As for me, the possibilities of the future beckoned brightly once more. Scars healed and lessons learned, I stepped forward to greet them.